Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Thursday. It is Thursday. I am home, as you can see from my background. The TARDIS and I have been reunited. The TARDIS and the pineapple and I have been reunited. Today is day 15 of body positivity, and we're going to talk about destruction today. Now, I wrote this down last week, and honestly, I don't remember what it says. And that's good because, like I said, I like to go through this with you guys, and we're all learning this together. So some of us may be advanced in this, some of us may be, just starting out on the body positivity. But today's topic is about destruction. Good morning, Eileen. So let's get to the Soul Truth Awareness cards for self-awareness. Self-awareness is always good to have, to be aware of what you're thinking, what you're doing, the choices you're making. Sometimes we knee-jerk. When we feel that need to knee-jerk, I think that's when mindfulness and self-awareness really comes in handy. So, let's see. There we go. I'm looking for a card for the day. And it finally popped up. Oh, this is interesting. Where am I with my health goals? Where do I want to be? Why am I not there? What will it take for me to feel well? Now, this is a double-edged sword, because the whole idea of what we're going through right now with body positivity is to remind ourselves that it's not the size that we're at. It's, how healthy we are, how healthy we want to be, I mean, I know people who are my size and they can tie their shoes no problem, right? I bend over and just like, gotta hold my breath. So I know, and it's not something to really joke about, but it's where we're at. And this is about learning how to love the body that we're in right now in this moment. So, sorry, let me move that a little. So that's the point of this, okay? And oh my God, I'm a hot mess. Oh, hot mess. So anyways, the back side of the card says, if my body could talk, it would say, what would your body say to you? And so it says, today's soul action: feed your body what it needs to feel nourished, appreciated, and loved. Make some new exciting goals to take your health to the next level. So you know what? I absolutely do not like this card, and I'll tell you why. If you're far along your body positivity journey, you're thinking, well, maybe I need to make some lifestyle changes for my health. But these are the kind of cards that remind us that, depending on how we take it, I could read this a month from now and say, I've made these changes. But that you don't necessarily need to make those changes. What you do is up to you. Okay. I mean, if this is a card that's coming up and it's really kind of hitting you between the eyes or making you angry, maybe it is something you need to do. And so find a way to embrace that without falling into old patterns and old habits. Because sometimes when we move too fast, right, we fall into these negative patterns. But this is basically saying, are you healthy? Now, the thing about this is, it's not saying your size, okay? So that's why it's a double-edged sword. It's not saying, oh, you're this size, so you're unhealthy, or you're that size, so you're unhealthy. No, it's asking you, how healthy do you feel? Do you need to make changes? Are you happy just the way you are? And is that fine for you? And if it is, that's great. That's great. That is absolutely great, because that's what the card is saying. But when you're new on the body positivity journey and you see something like this, you're saying, oh my gosh, they're saying I'm this, that, or the other. I'm being judged. I'm being judged by a card. So this is why we have to take that patience. We have to take a step back and find that self-awareness. Does this card resonate with you with something that you want to do? Does this card not resonate with you because you feel like you're fine just where you're at? You have to decide that for yourself. But it wouldn't hurt to just kind of reevaluate where you're at, because the thing is, it's not always about nourishing the body. It's about nourishing the mind. When we fix our minds and we learn how to really kind of expand it in a lot of different directions, you can do the things you want to do, but without excess. You can, delve into whatever it is that you enjoy doing, but without excess. And I'm talking about food, because I am an emotional leader, and we have, excess is where we get in trouble, right? So a lot of people think, oh my God, I can't eat this without, doing 50,000 push-ups tomorrow. No, it's not about that. It's about saying, look, you know what? I know I'm a healthy person, but you know what? I like to indulge from time to time, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just about portion control. It's about not doing things in excess. And to me, that's what we need to find in between these lines. You know, where am I at with my health goals? Now, if you have health goals, where are you at? Are you moving through it? Are you struggling? If you're struggling, this is why we're doing body positivity, because sometimes we think, oh, I need to be healthy, so I need to be thin, so poof. Oh, wait, what happened? I'm not there yet. Your body takes time. When you lose weight rapidly, your body will probably plateau. You just got to ride it out. It doesn't mean that your body stopped. It just means you got to ride it out and wait for the next wave of, you know, whatever it is you're trying to do, because a lot of people get stuck there. That's why dieting is the most horrible thing in the world. Okay, now that's just my perspective. That's your thing. If you do that, I cannot fix anybody. I can just help people. I can support people. I can help guide people. Now, you're probably thinking, yeah, well, you're just doing body positivity because, you know, you're not skinny. And it's like, that's not true. You know, I'm doing body positivity because I have been skinny and hated my body. I have been in that middle area where I'm actually shooting for, and I've hated my body. So it's not about what our size is. It's not about what our weight is. It's not about what clothes size we wear, or, you know, what bra size we wear, or this, that, or the other. It's about how we feel in this body right now. That's what's important. Learning how to love ourselves and learning how to love the person in the mirror, no matter how it changes, what changes, you know, whether it's a hairline or a waistline or whatever, you just gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself. Because, you know, I mean, I'm dealing with my grays right now, and I admit I'm about this close to just giving in to my vanity and coloring my hair, but I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with it. And I figure if I color it, it's still another 28 washes, right? Before, you know, the color comes out and I have more wiggle room to do stuff with. So I tried the blue in my hair during Comic-Con, and it did not work. It did not hold at all. So maybe I have to find a less subtle blue and a more boom blue. But the point is I am vain about that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, you know, being vain is not being, I mean, if you take vain to a whole new level, then it's narcissism. But, you know, we do get a little vain about our things, you know, like whether we wear makeup outside or not, or whether we want to color our hair, or whether our hair looks good this way or that way. And I don't think that's totally a bad thing. Again, it's when you take it to excess that it becomes a problem. I'm vain about my hair. Who cares? Who cares? We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. So right now it's cooperating, so I know you can't really see the grays right now because, you know, I have my hair down, but when I have my hair up, damn. So, yeah, but I thought I'd let the curls go free today. Excuse me. So, it's interesting how this card came up, because today's topic is destruction. So, good morning, older sibling. And it's not exactly what you think. I just read the first line, so let's dive into this. This is an indication that a choice must be made. It asks you what needs to die today. Maybe it is a limiting belief, an old inherited pattern, or someday I'll learn how to spell, toxic relationship. Oh God, seriously. Shall we start again? So remember, I'm using the Threads of Fate deck here. So it's the Threads of Fate cards. And I chose these because they really kind of dig into the shadow self. And that's what a lot of these cards are aimed at, are working on your shadow self and working on these subconscious parts of you that, you know, kind of unintentionally or intentionally run your life from the background. You know, it's like that computer you can't see in your phone, right? You just turn on your phone, you use it, but there's a whole system working in there. And that's what it's like a subconscious thing, right? It's just something buried inside of something that you can't see and that you can't really access unless you dig deep, you know? And some people probably pop their phones open to look at the inside and say, wow, that's amazing. And, that's what the shadow self really is. It's about digging deep into our subconscious, into our inner psyche, or as I call it, your inner child, or my inner floof, as I call it, my inner floof. So, it's really about healing those bits that have been so repressed or so far behind. That's why I always say, if you choose to do shadow work and you choose to go deep and dive deep, have a support system or seek professional help, because it can be scary AF. All right. It can be super scary. And I don't mean scary like, I mean like scary, because it's emotional, and you're revisiting things that you probably thought were long gone, or maybe you're revisiting things that you've revisited before, but instead of running from it, you're running at it now. And you're running at it with like ready to go, like bam, like I'm gonna succeed in this. This is my life, and I'm not gonna let you run it or ruin it anymore. And sometimes it's what we have to tell our fear, because a lot of times that subconscious is feeding our fear. And we don't even realize it. We make choices, we make decisions, or we stay in, toxic, as it says here, relationships or friend. And now remember, when we talk about relationships, it's the broad spectrum of relationships. It may not necessarily be a relationship you're in. It could be a relationship that's familial, friendships, partnerships, those kind of relationships. Relationships aren't always about the romantic kind, but a lot of times it is talking about that. So, just keep in mind that it may not, like you're saying, well, I'm single, it doesn't pertain to me. Well, it might, because maybe you have friendships that are toxic, that aren't good for you, or that maybe you need to pull back on the reins a little bit, or maybe you might be the toxic person, because you may not realize that you're just kind of like that Debbie Downer all the time, right? Or that person that just refuses to see that anything good is possible. And that's not your fault necessarily. That's why we're digging in to the subconscious. That's why we're trying not to be self-destructive. We're trying to get all these feelings out and realize, hey, I don't need to act this way to get attention, because when I act this way and everybody's like, yeah, oh my gosh, you're amazing, there's that person. And it's trying to find that person without having to feel like you're doing the fake it till you make it thing. And I've done the fake it till you make it thing for a long time. In fact, I've been in a pretty decent mood the last week, pretty jovial for the most part. And I've just been kind of surprised. And then you kind of start feeling like you're going backwards, right? Like you're going back into these moods that just don't, good morning, baby bear, that just kind of don't mesh with you. And then you start feeling low again. Then you start feeling sad again. Then you start feeling, and then you're kind of back in that place that you don't like to be, because it's comfortable and it's familiar, right? Remember, it's like that old itchy, scratchy blanket that I talked about the other day. That one that, is just so comfortable and familiar that you can't let it go. So you keep going back to it, even though it's uncomfortable. So, so if you're going to be uncomfortable there, why not be uncomfortable wandering through your life with that wonder and curiosity? We're not always going to know what's going to happen next, right? My dad and I watched The Meg 2 the other day. Love that movie. Less about the sharks, more about Jason Statham this time. So, it's like I went to a shark movie and a Jason Statham movie broke out. But no complaints. No complaints. But the point is, there was a scene in there where they're like, what do we do about this? What do we do? He's, we do one thing and then we do the next thing. So instead of sitting there trying to figure out what the end game is, sometimes in certain situations, we have to do the one right thing and then do the next thing. And that's also, I think, older sibling may be able to help me with this, but I think that might also be an AA thing, so, where you do the one right thing and then you do the next thing, and then you just keep piling those things on, because then you don't become so overwhelmed with, what your path might be, where you might be going. It's like where you're going to end up. Just take that one step at a time. When you walk out your front door, you don't just you're not just magically at your door, right? Like your car door, or you're not magically on the sidewalk. You have to take a few steps to get there, or a lot of steps. It's like I have a gate to get out of my house. My front door walks out right into my patio. Then I have to walk out of a gate. So I'm just magically poofing to my car, which is in a carport across the parking lot. So, I don't just magically appear there. I have to take one step and then the next step. And then you just keep taking steps until you get there. So this is kind of, to me, what I feel like the destruction card is about. This card indicates that a choice must be made. It asks you what needs to die today. Maybe it is a limiting belief, an old inherited pattern, or a toxic relationship. Whatever it is time to let it go. Sometimes once we identify what needs to go, it slips easily from us. Other times it is a slow cycle of releasing and then loosening the grip of our attachment. Be kind to yourself in this process. We establish attachments to things that do not serve us, but knowing something doesn't serve us does not mean it is easy to let go, especially if it has become a part of our identity. This process requires patience, practice, and self-compassion. So, there you go. Older siblings said, one day at a time, one step at a time. So, I also like to say, and I've said it in previous perspectives, if you can't do one day at a time, do one moment at a time. And sometimes I think that's where do the one thing and then do the next thing, and just keep building those, stepping stones to where you're heading to. And, if you fall off the path, it's okay. Don't feel like you need to go back to the beginning. Don't feel like you got to punish yourself and say, oh, now I got to go all the way back. No, just get up where you fell. Get up where you fell. Don't shame yourself. Don't feel bad about it. Give your feelings the validation they need so that you can feel it to heal it, right? And then move forward. But this is what this is talking about. It's talking about these old inherited patterns, or things we may have picked up as we're growing up from people that we admire. And that doesn't mean they're wrong. That just means that's how they were living their life. That maybe it was an old pattern they inherited. People talk about generational curses, and sometimes generational curses are nothing metaphysical. Sometimes they're just the patterns that, families tend to go through over and over and over again until somebody says, no, I'm done with this. I'm breaking this pattern. And then the sun shines through and the rainbows come out, right? And the little bluebirds start singing. And maybe that doesn't happen outside of your head, but inside of your head, that's still a magical thing to happen. My mother was an emotional eater. She's not here to defend herself, but when I go back over how I dealt with things and the way I would do it, I see myself, or I see her in me. Strangely enough, the older I get, I'm really starting to see her. I mean, my mom and I always looked alike, but damn. My cousin looked at me a couple weeks ago and said, oh my gosh, I totally see Auntie Ellen in your face. And it's just I know. It's the glasses, because my glasses, oh yeah, I'm not wearing my other glasses today, am I? I'm not wearing the big ones that my dad hates because they cover my face, but they're my favorites, to be honest with you. I just need a new prescription for them. So, I got these so you can see my face. But, I know, this is why I'm saying the Aloha Perspective is a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything, because you never know what direction I'm going to go in. But let's break this down, okay? What needs to die in your life? And I think the reason they're saying die is because you need to get rid of it. It is a limiting belief, an old inherited pattern, a toxic relationship. If you hang out with people or a person and you feel bad about it after, you just feel oh man, drained or sad or whatever, maybe you need to take a step back and reevaluate that relationship. Okay? Because relationships of all across the board, guys, should make us feel good about ourselves. We should leave happy or jovial. And I mean, that doesn't mean that the person's not having an issue. Maybe they're having a bad moment. Maybe they're having a sad time. But if this is something that's consistent, they're constantly going over the same thing over and over and over again, but not doing anything to change it, you could try to step in. Like I said, we cannot fix people. We can be supportive. We can help guide them. We can try to lead them. But we cannot fix them. We cannot say, hey, this is how you should be thinking. But we can say little things like, what can I do for you? Because I notice you're constantly talking about this all the time, but nothing seems to change. And they might just be venting, but there might be other stuff happening in their life that they don't want to talk about. So they focus on this one thing. And I'm speaking from experience as the person who was that person and the person who has had to deal with people like that. And eventually when you sit there and you kind of, we need to talk about this. We need to really kind of see where we're at here, because this is really bothering you. But sometimes you also have to say something, because I'm not sure that people always realize they're doing it. It's just there's other stuff going on in their life, and they just don't know how to talk about that, so they focus on the same thing that has bothered them over and over and over again. So sometimes we have to figure out how to do that. And like I said, for me, my old inherited pattern was my mom's emotional eating. And the worst part about it is, I mean, because my mom was, I think in her own way, she was a foodie before foodies were a thing, right? But she always shamed herself after. She would jump on the scale and, you know, be like, oh, I shouldn't have had that. And then she'd feel bad about it. And, you know, and then the next time they, you know, her and her ladies would go out, it'd be kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't have, but, you know, and she'd make herself feel bad about it instead. So she's only half enjoying what she's eating. You know, I mean, this is body positivity. This is us trying to fit ourselves into society's box. And see, Baby Bear says that her mom's the same way. And this translates onto us. Or not translate. This kind of moves right into who we are. Because we see that, and it, you know, without even realizing it, we may pick up that behavior. We may pick up that thing going, oh, gosh. But that's why we have to break that cycle. You know, don't shame yourselves. You know, don't try to fit yourself into society's box. If you are happy in the body you're in, then you're happy in the body you're in. If you're not, then that's why we're here. So you can figure out how to love yourself exactly as you are in this moment at this time. And if there are health choices you want to make, if there are things that you want to do, don't sit there and say, well, I need to be skinny, so I need to be healthy. Don't hide your I want to be thin behind being healthy. Just get healthy. Okay? For me, I know I need to get healthy because, you know, I have a scar here and I need to make sure this heart works. But, you know, a lot of people are sitting here saying, well, this is the ideal weight for you. It's like, you know what? I'm just going for a place that's comfortable where I can tie my shoes without feeling like I'm dying. Okay? Or, you know, I can, you know, wake up in the morning and my feet don't hurt because I'm carrying so much weight on my knees. So, you know, that's my thing. But as I'm going along, I'm starting to realize now that I am finding more and more appreciation for the body I'm in. This body gets me from, you know, point A to point B. This body has kept me alive. This body is just, it's mine. It's my temple. And I don't want to shame myself anymore because, you know, sometimes people look at me and just make funny faces, or, you know, you have people that love you that try to be helpful with their suggestions. And exactly. So Baby Bear says healthy looks different on everybody. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people don't realize my weight because I'm carrying weight on a body that was built to be 5'8". I'm only 5'4". Because even my cousin, when I saw her last month, she's like, well, you know, you and I are the same weight. It's like, we are not the same weight. Okay, we are not. It's like, you were part of my goal. You're my first goal weight, is what I told her. And then I told her. And, but I tried to also explain to her, you know what? But look at, you know, we're doing stuff. We're being nice. And I told her, I said, just don't shame yourself. Don't shame yourself. You know, it is what it is. And if you want to do something about it, do something about it. But don't put yourself down in the inner rim. Don't make yourself feel bad. Because that's not what this is about. It's not about looking like the girl in the magazine cover who's probably been airbrushed, you know, to oblivion. You know, and it's not about, you know, not wanting to lose weight because you're afraid that people that, you know, are in your certain community are going to look down on you. We need to not judge each other. We need to look at one another and just say, you're an amazing human. Or you're an asshole. You know, because some people are. But, or you're an amazing person who can be an asshole. You know, that's me. So, I got nothing to hide here, kids. But, so yeah, let's keep going. Here it is, right here. Whatever it is time to let it go. Now, one of the reasons you should be glad I am leading you on this tour through our own version of the Jungle Cruise is, I'm referring to the Disney ride because, you know, they're silly, is because I've been here. I've done this. I have run from things and then turned around and decided to punch it in the face. Not people, just, you know, your fears. And in that time when I've done that, I have found things are easy to let go. But they talk about too, you know, or it says, whatever it is, it's time to let it go. Sometimes once we identify what needs to go, it slips easily from us because we realize, why am I hanging on to this? This is ridiculous. So you let it go. right? But other times it is a slow cycle of releasing and then loosening the grip of our attachment. And that's where that old itchy, scratchy blanket comes in, right? It's that one thing that is so familiar to you that you cannot let it go because it's comfortable. Even if it's uncomfortable, it may be the worst thing that you own. Maybe you're allergic to this thing, but you keep it because it's comfortable and it's something you know. And that's what we have to let go of in here. What we don't need. These limiting beliefs, these limited patterns that we struggle through. And they may not even been inherited patterns. These may be things that you have picked up along the way from maybe something that has been said to you, or maybe things you've learned along the way, or maybe things that you just came up with on your own because you haven't been able to figure out how to find that self-love. Because ultimately, that's what body positivity is. It is just another form of self-love. It's about self-awareness and self-worth. It's about having that self-respect for yourself. And people will tell you, you know, have some respect for yourself. You need to look this way. That's not self-respect. Self-respect is looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you know what, you are enough. You are not what other people say. You are not who people are trying to make you feel. Because a lot of times people are putting you down from their own insecurities. Whatever they may be. They may say they're not. They may sit there and say, I'm not insecure, but they might be. They just either can't acknowledge it, or they just don't realize that it's a trait that they carry. Because, you know, they try not to see it. And, you know, so in this case, they'll just, you know, put somebody else down. Or maybe they have something else going on in their own life. There could be a fear there. There's just lots of different things that people come from, or directions that they come from, which is why I always say, what other people what other people say is none of your business. What other people say about you is none of your business. Because that's them. Don't listen to them. Okay, listen to your heart. Listen to your body. Listen to who you are. Because, you know, sometimes we self-sabotage the whole body positivity, you know, effort, because we're not moving in the right direction fast enough. This is where patience comes in. And trust me, I should not be talking to you or even suggesting patience because I am still working on it. I know, 50 years old and I still haven't figured out patience. Not my strong suit. Not my strong suit. But I'm working on it. And it's nice because I know older sibling is very aware of the fact that I'm working on it. And from time to time, she'll sit there and say, you know what? You're doing really good. You need to, you know, give yourself a little, you know, cut yourself some slack, basically. So again, other times it is a slow cycle of releasing and then loosening the grip of our attachment. I would say that for people who are first starting this journey, any shadow journey of letting go of something, when you first start, see, she just said now, you're doing great. But when you first start, it is hard because, you know, these are familiar things. And it might seem scary. It might feel like something that you have to hang on to. It might feel like something that is so a part of you that you cannot let it go. Slowly let it go. It's like an onion, right? There's layers and layers and layers. But you just have to let it go. Or it's like peeling a banana. You know, it's not like the cartoons where you just squeeze one in and it comes out the other. No, you're just going to end up with a mess. You have to peel it. You have to peel it little by little. Right? And don't make it like you're peeling a grape. Because, I mean, how long does that take? And you're even left with a grape. I mean, my whole point is that sometimes we sit there and we make things harder for ourselves than it needs to be. Because we're afraid. And when we learn how to stop running from our fear and we learn how to run at it, we take our power back. And that is the most important lesson we're ever going to learn, is how to take our power back, to how to empower ourselves, how to love ourselves. Okay, so be kind to yourself in this process. Be very kind to yourself in this process. We establish attachments to things that do not serve us, but knowing something doesn't serve us does not mean it is easy to let go, especially if it has become a part of our identity. This process requires patience, practice, and self-compassion. Oh, self-compassion. That's a big one, right? I pretty much talked about this other part, but self-compassion is huge, huge, right? I always like to tell people, and sometimes I forget to remind myself, but when we're on this when we're on this journey, whether it's a shadow journey, or whether it's, for body positivity or whatever it is, when we're trying to work our way out of body negativity, when we get into the shadow place, this is where we see everything. This is where all our fears live, all of our hopes, our dreams live. It is the place where you're trying to bring everything together. Now, that doesn't mean that you're never going to not have shadow work to do. You might have things buried so deep that you could be 80 years old and it might be like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. That was so traumatizing. But when you start here and you work your way in that direction, when that thing comes up several years, several weeks, several days from now, and you've already figured out your formula of how to make this work, you're going to let it go. Because you're going to say, like, you know what? No, that's my past. That stays back here. My therapist told me to keep my past in my past. I mean, she was very clear. She said, look, if you were just starting on this journey, we'd be diving into this. But she's all, you've done this already, right? I've talked about this in other perspectives. She's all, you're packing and unpacking the same things over and over. You're just coming at it from different directions. So she's all, no more journaling about your past. She's all, we need to journal from here and moving forward. And like I said, I read an article that said, oh yeah, therapy's great because, it helps me, they help me navigate my life or help me, navigate certain parts of my life. And I'm like, oh, that hit me between the eyes. I'm like, oh man, I've been using therapy all wrong. I've been using therapy as like, oh, I got to get rid of all this stuff. Woe to me. But instead of saying, yeah, you know what? I healed all that stuff in the last time I was at therapy. So let's get me rolling and let's get me moving in the right direction. And it was from those sessions, like the last 2 sessions I've had, that really kind of inspired the body positivity thing, because she thinks I should be dating. She thinks I should be dating, and she's not sure why I'm not dating. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. And I told her, and she gave me the whole body lecture. She just said, hey, look around. Look around. There are people who are couples in all shapes and sizes. And she's all, the only person holding you back is you. I had to agree with that, but reluctantly agreed with that. But it's true, and there's a worthiness in there, and there's a maybe a little bit of lack of self-love and self-worth in there, and that's why we're all doing this together. Because, like I said, this is my 3rd go around with body positivity, and this is the first time that I'm really getting stuff. That I'm making myself do the exercises. I'm listening to what I'm saying. I had friends that called me out and said, do you even listen to your own advice? I'm like, absolutely not. And like I said, when I heard myself not even miss a beat on that, I realized, oh my gosh, how can I be guiding these people if I'm not, doing this myself? I was such a hypocrite. I don't have a problem with calling myself out because I know I was being a hypocrite. I'm sitting here telling everyone, do this. And I was not doing that. And so, 3rd time's a charm, right? Baby bear, you're so cute. You should date. I know the consensus is in, right? It should be a thing. So, anyways, I know. I know, but yeah. That, like I said, I'm working on it. I'm working on the worth and the self stuff. So, but yeah, destruction as a whole is really what kind of upends us. It's what kind of gives us that excuse that we don't need to move in different directions. It gives us that excuse that we don't need to do this, that, or the other. We just get into this destructive process, right? Where we just, whatever about the toxic relationships that we're in, it's just kind of like, well, that's just how they are. Well, it doesn't have to be just how they are. There were times in my life when I could be a toxic person where, especially on my this last healing journey, everything seemed to just always fall back into that. Well, I'm sad because of this, or, my mom dying, or, Sissy Joe passing away, or my other friend, who took her own life. And it's just, and just other people down the road. And you just sit there and go, wow. And you get so lost in your own pain. Toxicity isn't just about dealing with narcissistic people. Toxic relationships, for the most part, we look at them as being like the abusive relationships, the emotionally abusive relationships, and that those really are, like, those are the toxic relationships we really, really talk about. But we don't talk about, just, the people that might bully us, right? Because that's a toxic relationship. And I was in a situation like that where I was being bullied by somebody. I mean, I'm in my 40s and I'm being bullied by somebody. And finally I just said, you know what? I'm not going to, I kept telling older sibling, and it's just, she's like, you need to nip this in the bud. And I finally did. And they didn't take it all that well. And then later on, we kind of revisited the conversation. And I was like, yeah, well, you know what? I was responding to you because it didn't seem like any other way helped. But you know what? I have hurt people when I was hurting. And it's not easy to admit. It's actually quite hard. But I slipped one time and I talked about that, how I was a hurt person that hurt people. And somebody actually said to me, thank you for sharing that, because so many people don't. And so I figured, you know what? That gave me the courage to say, look, we can change if we really want to. My toxic behavior came from a place of pain. Now, that doesn't mean that's always with everybody. Some people are just narcissistic assholes. But for a lot of us, it came from my pain. I mean, I would just kind of fly off the handle at like one little thing, it was like like I was a firecracker or dynamite, or a bomb waiting to go off. And it was kind of like, boom, and then you start realizing, do I want to continue to be that person? And then you realize more, I really got to heal myself. I've got to figure out a way through this. And sometimes that's how we end up letting go. Sometimes that's how we figure out, hey, this isn't working for me, so I got to move on. And once we do that and we start to see this promised land of our own, it's kind of like, wow, where have the rainbows, bluebirds, and sunshine been my whole life? Because you start to see that you don't need to hold yourself back. You don't need to sit in the darkness and pretend to be happy. What happened, happened. In my past, what happened, happened. And I've healed it, and I've felt it, and I've cried over it, and I've hurt myself over it. And I have come this close 3 times to ending it all. And I'm not trying to trigger people, but this is how low my depression got. And to the point now that when I have these thoughts, I know I have to tell older sibling if I'm not in my therapist's office. And it's been a while. I have to do I have to do a questionnaire before every appointment. And I'm not sure if this is standard for everybody or what, but I have to do a questionnaire before every appointment to see where I'm at this week or that week or the last 2 weeks. And I've gotten so good that my therapy has gotten down from, every 2 weeks. Well, every 2 weeks to once a month now. And that's been my goal. I think my therapist's goal is to, remind me that I have all these tools and just come back as needed, right? But right now I'm down to 1 month. And so I have to do these things every 2 weeks. And I can honestly tell you that for the last 3 times I've been in, I've honestly been able to say that I have not wanted to hurt myself or have bad thoughts of not being here anymore. And that's a testament to being guided to remind myself, hey, I'm worthy of this life. I mean, I had doctors fight for my life. I had parents that fought for my life. And that's not to make myself feel guilty or shameful. It's to remind myself, hey, look, depression is a part of my life. And I have to figure out how to keep it in check and put it back in check when it needs to be put back in check. There are going to be times that might be a little hard to deal with. And, you just got to kind of roll through it and hang on, right? Don't let your boat capsize. Just hang in there and do the best you can to stay as level as you can and not fall into that spiral. I am literally starting to come out of a years-long spiral. And I kept thinking I was coming out of it. I kept saying I came out of it. And then like a week or 2 later, I'd be right back in it, just like, why am I still feeling this way? And it was because I kept running from everything. I hated my body. I hated the fact that I've been single for so long. I hated everything about me. Excuse me. And then that would just make me feel bad. I would think that being single is, just a testament to how unlovable I am. But it's not. I'm sure there's a reason I'm still single. I don't know what it is. Or maybe it's just so we can get to this point right now and say, hey, your worth is not defined by outside influences. Your worth is defined by who you look at and see in the mirror and who you choose to see in the mirror. Do you want to love that person or do you want to hate that person? Because I tell you, when you hate that person, it just gets worse. When you love that person, no matter what you think you see in the mirror, you're going to start changing. You could see the same person in the mirror 3 days in a row, but then that third day of saying, you know what, I love you, you're amazing. I forced myself the other day, excuse me, holy cow, it's like somebody does not want this message to get out. I forced myself the other day to dress in a full-length mirror. Now, I don't have any full-length mirrors at home, and it's not because of my weight. I'm very superstitious about mirrors. Okay, I know. But, excuse me. And that doesn't mean I don't have mirrors in my house. I do. I don't even have a mirror in my room. Now, the mirror in my room at my dad's house is because somebody else put that up. Not my dad, but every so often he has a friend that stays, and one of our Hanai family members. And yeah, they thought, oh, look, there's a mirror. I'm going to put it up. And it's like, oh my God. And my dad's like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they were going to do that. And because we were all kind of, shifting and house sitting for my dad while he was on vacation. But I deal with it. I deal with it now. And, but yeah, I forced myself to get dressed in the mirror. And I forced myself to turn sideways, turn this way, turn that way. And the first time it was kind of like, oh. But then when I turned, I thought, you know what? I started to see somebody different. Yeah, I mean, to some people, I am flawed. To me, I'm perfectly imperfect. And the outside always changes. The outside never stays the same. So once we look in the mirror and we really see ourselves, don't just look at yourself and then walk away. Look in your eyes and tell yourself, look, you're an amazing human being. Because it says right here at the end, this process requires patience, practice, and self-compassion. And when you learn how to, successfully work through this process, throughout your life, you're still going to have to practice the patience and the self-compassion and the self-love. It's just like I was talking about with my hair, right? It's like, I don't know whether to color it or just make fun colors out of, just have kind of wonky hair with like dark here and light there. But I do get a little vain about my hair. I do. But that's what I'm talking about though. Because after a while I look at it and I'm like, I've been graying since I was 18. So it's not really a sign of my age. It's just a sign that, this is my family genetics. So you have to decide what it is that you're running at. Or I should say, you have to decide what you're running away from and then stop. Take your power back. And no matter how scary it is, run at it. Run at it. And tell your fear, you don't have any power over me anymore. You have to decide whether you have toxic relationships. And if it's not a person you can or are willing to let go of, see what you can do to help them. Like I said, we cannot fix people, but we can help them. We can be supportive. We can guide them. And I can tell you that the person that I had this issue with, it took a while. It took a while, and it was all very, very subtle. And it was more of older sibling empowering me and telling me, you don't need to take this. And when I put my foot down, the relationship I have with this friend now is so different. It took a 180. It really did a 180. And it was so different. And it's just like, whenever you need, just call and I'll listen. But don't stack it in. Don't hold it in. That can cause health problems. And I know that I do believe that pain can sometimes come from an internal issue that we have. Or we can manifest pains in different areas for different psyches that we're going through. But even if you don't believe in that, stress or overthinking can cause stress and can cause anxiety, and that can cause health problems. So, we need to learn how to do this stuff, and we need to have that compassion for ourselves. Okay, so let's try to work through not being destructive or self-sabotaging, but let's also work through becoming stronger in these, limiting beliefs, or letting go of these old inherited patterns and those limiting beliefs, and, either healing or walking away from those toxic relationships. If it is bad, I know it's easier said than done. And I admit that I'm not, There are a lot of bad toxic relationships out there that you just need to learn how to walk away from because they're killing you, whether physically or mentally. And like I said, I know it's easier said than done, but come up with some kind of contingency plan. Find someone that can help you. There are places everywhere that can help. All right. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. I know that felt very abrupt, and I apologize, but I told older sibling that sometimes it feels like it ends abruptly now because once I finish and I start repeating myself, I know it's time that we're done. All right. I thought I was going to be done 15 minutes ago, and then I went on a whole new tangent. So I'll be back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch. It's under Shelley Marie Lucas, or you can catch the replays on YouTube and my Facebook page, the Aloha Perspective. Right now, my computer's acting kind of wonky, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to upload the perspectives, but hopefully by this weekend or Monday I'll have it all fixed and it'll be all ready, because Big Red is my hero. I've had Big Red for forever and I refuse to let him go. So I know, let go, Shelley Marie. No, hey, still, for the most part, he still works fine, but I just got to tweak a couple of things. So anyways, but you can also watch it on the Aloha Perspective Facebook page. And I also do a short version of this on TikTok, which I do also upload to, Instagram. So again, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. Tomorrow's Aloha Oracle Friday. So if that's not your thing, I will see you back here Monday. In which case, have a great Friday, a wonderful and safe weekend. And we'll be back on Monday with day 16. Day 16 of body positivity. And next week is going to be a little nice. Next week, we're going to do love, compassion, and soul work. Love, compassion, and soul work. So once we learn how to let go of these limiting beliefs and these inherited patterns, the next step is learning how to love ourselves, learning how to have compassion, and doing that soul work that can help us really kind of lift up and let go of a lot of things. Now, just as a note, sometimes we do get triggered. And that's understandable, especially depending on how deep the trauma is, depending on how deep the pain is, the inherited belief, the limiting belief, whatever it is. We will get triggers from time to time. But as we gain these tools, especially the mindfulness tool and the body positivity tool, and we move away from the negative thinking, we move away from the body negative thinking, we implement these tools and we utilize them when these triggers come up, and they make it a little bit easier and eventually easier to move through. And I speak from experience when I say that, because I'm finally letting myself, just validate my feelings, feel it, and say, hey, is there something I really need to hang on to? It's like I said, that one line from that one movie, right? That Mark Rylance line. Would it help or would it matter? Why hang on to something if it's not going to benefit your life? Okay? Because, ultimately this is your life. You're with yourself 365, 24 hours a day. The one person who should be loving you the most is you. All right. So have a great, great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see everybody either tomorrow or Monday. Have a great day.